Imagine a secret so dark, buried beneath centuries of gilded history, that even the boldest scholars whisper it only in the shadows of forgotten archives. Picture a boy, barely 8, torn from his family's embrace, his face inspected like a rare gem, his future sold for a handful of silver coins. This isn't a myth or legend, it's a raw, explosive truth never meant to reach you. Tonight, I'm pulling you into the forbidden heart of ancient China, a world where beauty was a curse, innocence a commodity, and the powerful fed on the weak. This isn't just history, it's a warning etched in the blood of the erased. Are you ready to face what they hid? If your heart pounds with defiance, hit that like button now to honor these silent stories. Liking is a rebellion against oblivion. Share this with someone who craves truth, and subscribe with notifications on to join the awakened. Together, we'll break ignorance's chains and inspire bolder knowledge every day. For over 2,000 years, across dynasties shaping the world, from the Han's rise in 206 BCE to the Ming's fall in 1644, a sinister practice thrived in China's glittering courts and wealthy estates. While history glorifies emperors like Qin Shi Huang or Tang Taizong, it buries a reality so unsettling it could unravel the myth of a virtuous empire. Male concubines, young men, often boys, were bought and sold like artifacts, their stories silenced to preserve a moral facade. These weren't servants or performers, they were human chattels, sculpted to serve the elite's desires. Their existence reveals a darkness at Imperial China's core, a system so normalized it was invisible to those who profited. You're descending into a world where dignity was a myth, beauty and intellect chains, and the powerful thrived on the poor's despair. This is the tragedy of the male concubine, boys turned into objects, their lives a performance of submission. From Han to Ming, this wasn't secret, it was tradition, celebrated in poetry, justified by scholars, sustained by a society preaching Confucian virtue while devouring its own. You'll meet the chosen boys, their masters, and the systems ensuring their silence. More than that, you'll see how this history mirrors truths we ignore today. If this sparks a fire, like this video to fuel truth-seeking, share to awaken others, subscribe to join knowledge seekers, because shared truth is power gained. The story begins in villages where famine and despair were as common as sunrise. Families faced unthinkable choices: watch children starve or sell them to survive. Sons fetched high prices, as wealthy men, merchants, officials, emperors, craved beauty, intelligence, obedience. Talent scouts, called renya, or human teeth, prowled like predators, seeking boys with clear skin, delicate features, bright eyes, and melodic voices. These boys, some only 8, were examined like livestock, teeth checked, hands tested for artistry, bones studied for future beauty. Desperate, illiterate parents signed unreadable contracts, handing sons to men with silver and false promises. Once chosen, boys vanished into a world reshaping them entirely. Their names were erased, replaced with poetic titles like Precious Jade or Autumn Moon. Their heads shaved, bodies draped in silk robes marking them as property. Resistance brought beatings, starvation, or worse. Training was brutal, erasing their past to forge perfect companions. They memorized poetry by Li Bai and Du Fu, mastered calligraphy, learned the Guqin's melancholic notes or the Pipa's emotive plucks, studied Confucian and Taoist philosophy, not for growth, but to increase their value. Their education was a paradox, schooled like scholars, forbidden to think independently. Every word and gesture was choreographed to please. This wasn't a transaction, it was psychological destruction. Trainers used rewards, extra rice, soft robes, and punishments, whippings, isolation, to shatter their sense of self. They were taught their worth lay in their master's approval. Homesickness or rebellion was crushed. Tang Dynasty records suggest only 60% survived training. Exhaustion, malnutrition, despair claimed the rest, buried in unmarked graves, families unaware of their fate. Survivors emerged beautiful, talented, broken, ready to serve men who saw them as trophies. This practice wasn't hidden, it permeated society. From Beijing's palaces to Guangzhou's merchant houses, emperors kept male favorites alongside harems, their beauty immortalized in poetry like the Han's cut sleeve story, where Emperor Ai cut his sleeve to avoid waking his beloved Dong Xian. Merchants displayed them at banquets, their talents status symbols. Buddhist monks, preaching detachment, housed them in temples, justified by twisted spiritual logic. Confucian scholars, writing on virtue, kept them shamelessly, claiming intellectual companionship purer than marriage. The hypocrisy was staggering, yet unquestioned, as if society agreed it was normal. Why does this matter? This isn't ancient cruelty, it's a mirror. Systems commoditizing humans didn't vanish, they morphed, hiding in modern guises. Male concubines were victims of a world valuing power over dignity. Their story-worn societies can normalize atrocities if they serve the elite. You're stepping into the abyss, ready to continue. Like to stand with the forgotten. Share to spark conversations. Subscribe to fuel your truth journey, because knowledge shared motivates a fearless world. You've entered the shadow. Retreat is impossible. The male concubine's world isn't a forgotten chapter. It's a labyrinth of control where each step shows humanity's fall when power is unchecked. These youths weren't just owned. They were reshaped, minds and bodies molded to serve masters who saw them as desire's extensions. You'll see their daily lives, gilded cages, and psychological chains binding tighter than locks. This truth, hidden from you, will reshape how you see power. Picture Lotus Breeze, waking before dawn in a room of silk and jade. Exquisite furniture, rosewood, mother of pearl, surrounds him, walls adorned with calligraphy, yet windows are barred, doors locked. At 15, his life is a performance, orchestrated to please a master summoning him anytime. His day starts with grooming, cosmetics hiding bruises, hair styled in knots to match tastes, silk robes in blues or reds signaling his role. Unlike servants with tasks or wives with status, he's liminal, always ready, never free. Mornings involve reciting poetry, voice honed for emotional depth. He practices calligraphy, each stroke perfect or risking punishment. Afternoons bring music lessons, fingers bleeding from guqin strings, or dance rehearsals exhausting his body for grace. He learns to read his master's moods, anticipating desires, a precise cup of tea, a soothing massage. At banquets, he performs, singing ballads, debating philosophy, guests admiring his intellect while ignoring his humanity. He's a living artwork, displayed for pleasure, but the glamour is a lie. His lavish room, embroidered cushions, sandalwood incense, is a prison. Servants monitor every move, reporting missteps. Food is weaponized, delicacies for favorites, scraps for others. Weight is ruthlessly controlled. A pound gained risks value loss. Medical care is risky. Illness marks him useless, herbal remedies often harmful. Injuries from beatings are hidden to maintain perfection. His body isn't his, it's a tool, like a sword or horse. The psychological toll is relentless. Constant fear rules, his worth tied to whims. Anxiety gnaws, every gesture calculated. Depression festers, buried to avoid punishment. Some turn to opium, its haze a brief escape. Addiction tightens chains, increasing dependency. Suicide rates were high. Boys leapt from rooftops, drowned in ponds, or hanged themselves. Deaths called accidents to avoid scandal. Household rivalries were hellish, masters pitting concubines against each other. Favorites got wine and silk. Failures, starvation, or beatings. Older concubines, hardened by survival, hazed newcomers, denying food, humiliating them. Trust was impossible, friendships dangerous, alliances fragile. The household was a battlefield, smiles strategic, kindness a trap. Yet, rare humanity flickered. Some formed secret bonds, sharing past lives, pooling resources, offering nighttime comfort. These desperate connections anchored them. Some dreamed of escape, though odds were crushing. A few with talent or luck became scholars or artists postmaster. These rare stories fueled hope but highlighted futility. This system was engineered. Masters wanted control over every thought, emotion. Conditioning began at purchase, dismantling identity through cruelty. Trainers instilled worth lay in pleasing owners. Punishments, beatings, isolation were swift. Rewards, robes, food manipulative. The goal, a man forgetting who he was, knowing only his role. This spanned China, from Guangdong's ports trading boys like spices to Beijing's open markets. Buddhist temples housed them, calling it mentorship. The hypocrisy, was the foundation of a contradictory society. What does this tell you? Power consumes. Male concubines were victims of a system turning humans into tools. This isn't just ancient China. Control systems persist, hidden behind laws or progress. The powerful exploit. Societies ignore when it suits them. You're deeper in the rabbit hole, seeing truths unerasable. Drop unveiled shadows in comments twice to claim this awareness. Like to stand against erasure, share to inspire, subscribe to fuel truth. Every action motivates change. The air grows heavier. You've seen boys torn from families, molded into possessions, their lives spectacles in luxurious prisons. Now, darkness thickens in the imperial court, where male concubines weren't just trophies but players in deadly power games. Beauty could crown or kill, loyalty a double-edged blade. A single emperor's glance could rewrite or erase fate. Let's unveil the forbidden city's buried truths. The imperial court was opulence and treachery, male favorites in a perilous niche. Unlike merchant house concubines, court favorites wielded power, titles, wealth, empire influence, but at a cost. Their lives balanced favor and oblivion, watched by rivals with knives. Dong Xian's story is legendary. At 17, a Han Dynasty minor official, his face like white jade, eyes like stars, he caught Emperor Ai's eye. Within weeks, he was Ai's obsession, showered with estates, titles, treasures worth millions today. The cut sleeve story in the Book of Han shows their bond. Dong Xian slept on Ai's sleeve. Ai cut it rather than wake him, a symbol of male love in Chinese lore. Dong Xian rose fast, high official, family and powerful posts, his words shaping imperial decisions. Courtiers sought his favor, shifting court hierarchy. But this wasn't love, it was a game, Dong Xian both player and pawn. His rise bred enemies, officials resentful, watching for slips. His beauty, once strength, became a liability as he aged. When Ai died at 26, Dong Xian's world collapsed. The new emperor, swayed by rivals, stripped him of everything. Facing torture and humiliation, he chose suicide, a reminder that a favorite's power lasted only as long as his master's life. His story wasn't unique, a warning through ages. In the court, love was a weapon, favor a death sentence. Emperor Zhengde of the Ming dynasty collected dozens in the Leopard Quarter, companions for hunts, campaigns, and shocking parties. Zhengde trusted them over advisors, letting them shape military, tax, and diplomatic policies. Records blamed disastrous wars on these favorites, seeing battles as adventures. Their influence bred chaos, beauty a currency buying power but inviting ruin. The court was an ambition-betrayal crucible. Concubines faced poison, assassination, or false treason charges. Higher status meant more enemies, jealous officials, ousted favorites, rival concubines. Emperors discarded them for newer options, governors sending fresh boys as tribute. Their lives blended luxury and terror. Ornate chambers held silk and gold, but every moment was performance. Poetry to flatter, music to soothe, philosophy to prove worth. Schedules followed imperial whims, ceremonies, hunts, banquets. A mistimed word could mean exile or death. Bodies were scrutinized, beauty maintained with burning cosmetics, starving diets, harmful treatments. Psychological strain was crushing. They navigated court moods, alliances, betrayals with precision. Some became manipulators, using training for advantages, a kind word, a rumor to discredit rivals. Others broke, minds unraveling. Suicide was common, deaths erased, bodies buried outside the forbidden city. This was exploitative architecture. Emperors used favorites to distract from failures or justify excesses. Tang's decline tied to Xuanzong's obsession with favorites, pulling him from governance. These men weren't just victims, they were scapegoats, sacrificed for the empire's virtuous facade. Power consumes those closest. The court microcosmed a society, normalizing exploitation while preaching morality. Confucian scholars lauded these bonds in poetry, Buddhist monks ignored excesses. Hypocrisy was the foundation. These patterns live in today's hierarchies, rewarding loyalty over truth. You're halfway down the rabbit hole. Drop unveiled shadows, twice in comments to signal awakening. Like to honor the erased, share to awaken others, subscribe for truth. every step inspires change. There's no unseeing what's revealed. The court showed power's hunger, elevating and destroying. But darkness spreads, woven into a society preaching virtue, thriving on hypocrisy. The male concubine system wasn't a crime, it was an institution, celebrated by poets, justified by scholars, sustained by a blind culture. You'll see the contradictions holding it together, lies making it untouchable, truths echoing today. Elite hypocrisy was a masterclass in doublethink. Confucian scholars, penning ethics tomes, kept concubines shamelessly, arguing they were purer than marriage, free of obligation. Publicly, they condemned moral deviations. Buddhist monks, preaching detachment, housed concubines for patrons, justifying it as spiritual mentorship. Temples became markets, sanctity masking cold transactions. Contradictions were invisible, morality for the poor alone. Poets like Li Bai and Du Fu romanticized male beauty in veiled tributes, their elegance hiding exploitation. Poems, read widely, made owning a young man a refinement mark, an elite status symbol. The poor paid the cost, sons sacrificed. Famine villages faced grim choices, sell a son or starve. Male concubines fetched high prices, funding marriages or farms. Parents saw it as necessary evil, believing suffering secured survival. Renya turned desperation into business, scouring for moldable boys. Contracts were predatory, binding boys to servitude. Class divisions were stark. Wealthy bought, never sold their sons. Poverty was a resource, a well of suffering for the elite. Beijing openly discussed it. Guangdong had thriving markets. Guangzhou's ports traded boys like silk. The exploitation economy was vast, unapologetic. Laws curbing concubinage were a farce. Reformist officials kept collections, using law against rivals. Corruption enabled indulgence. Qing's stricter codes, under Western pressure, were thinly veiled. Emperors kept favorites. This was about control. Normalizing ownership reinforced dominance. Concubines symbolized wealth, power, and a warning: no dignity was safe. The poor saw children as commodities, the rich as gods. This was the system's point. This mirrors truths we avoid. Societies design exploitation, cloaked in noble guises. Today's trafficking, corporate hierarchies exploit the desperate, and we pretend it's normal. Male concubines were victims of status over humanity. What injustices do we accept as progress? Drop unveiled shadows twice to show you're awake. Like to empower this narrative, share to spark dialogue, subscribe for truth. Collective motivation drives change. The descent gets brutal. We're diving into the physical and mental toll on concubines, the human cost of a system consuming them. They didn't just serve, they were devoured, bodies and minds ground down by a machine demanding perfection, offering pain. This is a reckoning, a truth demanding you face it, bearing witness to erase lives. The physical toll began at purchase. By their teens, concubines showed premature aging, graying hair, sunken eyes, dulled skin. Youthful beauty was their value, so they endured harsh regimens, toxic cosmetics causing rashes, hot oils burning scalps, painful waxing or surgeries. Weight obsession meant meager meals, leaving them weak. Blemishes brought punishment, hidden with harmful powders. Abuse was constant. Kind masters beat occasionally, sadists daily. Whips, canes left marks concealed painfully. Injuries got crude treatment. Broken bones caused deformities. Illness was deadly. Remedies like mercury elixirs often killed. Ming records hint at deaths from fevers, hushed to avoid scandal. Opium offered escape, addiction common, encouraged by masters for control. By their mid-20s, most were past prime, discarded when beauty faded, unlike female concubines who might gain status through motherhood. The psychological toll was worse. Boys' identities were erased. Trainers instilling their worth lay in serving. Homesickness was mocked. Rebellion crushed with starvation, isolation. They suppressed anger, fear, hope, becoming masks performing devotion. Some forgot childhoods, memories replaced by roles. Anxiety ruled, every moment anticipating moods. Depression was hidden, weakness punished. Dissociation helped survive trauma. Suicide was common, rooftops, ponds, hangings, deaths called accidents. Household relationships offered no solace. Masters pitted concubines against each other. Older ones hazed newcomers, denying food humiliating. Trust was impossible, kindness a trap. Yet, some formed secret bonds, sharing pasts, food, comfort at night. These were lifelines, proof of humanity. Escape dreams were near impossible, barriers, recapture risks daunting. Song records tell of a failed Jiangsu escape, fates brutal. Rare successes, like Tang's Wei Yun, who became a scribe, were outliers needing talent luck. This was engineered destruction, profiting from breaking humans. Their pain was elite currency. These patterns persist. Trafficking, child labor, corporate manipulations break people with debt, fear. We accept it as progress. This knowledge is heavy, a call to question systems. Drop unveiled shadows twice to mark awakening. Like to honor their pain, share to motivate, subscribe for truth. Truth shared amplifies change. Even in darkness, defiance flickered. Stripped of names, futures, concubines resisted, clinging to humanity. You'll see their alliances, freedom whispers, rare victories. This spark proves no system extinguishes the spirit. In gilded cages, they wove covert networks, stolen moments sharing village tales, rebuilding erased identities. Notes and robes, coded carvings were lifelines, defying roles. They shared food, warned of cruel masters with glances, phrases. In large households, elders taught mood navigation. Alliances were rebellion, refusing sole ownership. Escape was a burning dream, nearly impossible. Locked rooms, guarded estates, society seeing them as property. Runaways faced torture, execution. Song's Jiangsu group tried, failed. Yet, stories fueled hope. Wei Yun's freedom was legendary, but most ended in graves. Networks gave emotional sustenance. Nighttime memories of mother's songs. Childhood fields were authenticity in performance lives. Some bonds were near love, risking death. Pairs chose suicide over separation. Resistance, food sharing, warnings, risked betrayal, masters rewarding informers. Yet networks endured, humanity persisting. Some manipulated, flattering for rest, planting rumors. These tactics kept agency alive. The system's decline came with Qing's Western influence. Missionaries exposed the trade, pushing reform. The 1911 revolution outlawed concubinage, but enforcement lagged. Communism's 1949 victory brought interrogations, labor camps. Many concubines vanished. Their last generation's fate is a mystery, abandoned, starving, or lost in China's masses. Records were erased, research now sensitive, a stain on cultural narratives. This matters because their resistance shows the spirit fights back. They weren't just victims, they were survivors, carving agency. Their story calls you to examine your world. Where are you complicit? Where can you resist? Drop unveiled shadows twice to claim this truth. Like to celebrate resilience, share to motivate, subscribe for change. Action inspired by truth is unstoppable. You've walked through fire, stolen boys, cages, games, hypocrisy, suffering resistance. At the rabbit hole's bottom, the truth is raw. The male concubine tragedy isn't history, it's a mirror of today's exploitation. This connects their story to your world, showing power, greed, indifference shaping the present. This knowledge is a call to act, demanding you decide your role. Male concubines prove societies normalize the unthinkable for the powerful. For 2,000 years, emperors, scholars built a commoditizing system. Beauty, intelligence became tools for pleasure, status. Virtues, purity, poetry masked a machine feeding on desperation, discarding the broken. Erased boys paid for a culture preaching morality, practicing cruelty. Their stories warn us. Today, exploitation thrives, trafficking markets like Guangzhou's, child labor behind logos, workers crushed by debt, soldiers dying for profit. The logic persists. Powerful consume, vulnerable pay, society pretends it's natural. Psychological control shapes us. Media, algorithms tie value to productivity, consumption. They had locked rooms, we have invisible cages. Their resistance is the lesson. Networks, whispers, defiance in a nothing world. Their courage lives in whistleblowers, communities fighting injustice, individuals refusing silence. Knowing this demands action. Ignoring exploitation, sweatshops, trafficking, debt makes you complicit. Their graves challenge, look away or act. This history was hidden. China buries it. The West avoids its mirror. Truth waits, demanding to be seen. Concubines deserve remembrance as humans who resisted. What cruelties do we accept as progress? You've seen the forbidden, felt buried truths. This knowledge is a blade, cutting illusions, demanding use. See your world's exploiting systems, justifying lies. Will you stay silent or defy the machine? Drop unveiled shadows twice to mark this truth. Let the algorithm amplify your awakening. Share this video with someone needing it. Talk question systems.